You ever been laughed at by the person you trust most, while holding a plate of ribs in one hand and your dignity in the other? It was a Saturday afternoon in Denver, and our backyard smelled like smoked brisket, cheap sunscreen, and betrayal. Sarah, my wife of 7 years, was standing by the cooler, holding court with a red plastic cup and a tongue too loose for the occasion. Our friends were scattered across the lawn, laughing, sipping beer, tossing beanbags. I was mid-conversation with Amanda, her longtime friend turned occasional antagonist, when I heard it, Sarah's voice slicing through the buzz of small talk. "Oh please, Jacob's never taking risks. He's happy with his little cubicle job, pushing emails like it's still 2005. People laughed. Amanda's head snapped toward her. "Seriously?" she said, half laughing, but her eyes went sharp. "Then give him to me. I'd take him with that salary." Just like that, the air changed. Laughter stalled. Forks paused. Conversations faded. And all eyes drifted toward the husband with the little cubicle job. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just looked at Sarah across the yard. Our eyes locked, hers still lit with amusement. Was that supposed to be funny? Her smile faltered. A ripple of discomfort passed through the crowd. Amanda raised her drink slowly, eyebrows up. "Jake," Sarah said with a dismissive little scoff, "don't be so sensitive." It was a joke. A joke, I echoed, walking toward her, each step pulling the weight of years. "Tell me, what part was funny? The part where you lied about loving my ambition, or the part where you try to impress your friends by tearing me down?" "You're overreacting," she hissed, lower now. "Don't do this in front of people." "Oh no, you already did this in front of people. I'm just responding." Amanda took a strategic step back, joining the half-circle of silent guests pretending to check their phones or sip their drinks. Everyone knew this wasn't just a marital squabble. It was something cracking wide open. Sarah tried to laugh it off again. "Come on, babe. It was just—" "No," I interrupted. "It was clarity, wrapped in sarcasm. And now everyone's seen it." The silence that followed was absolute. I walked away, slow and steady, hearing nothing but the soft crunch of grass under my shoes and the sound of Sarah's illusion unraveling. Back inside the house later, the walls of our minimalist home felt colder. Our space, once shared with comfort, had turned into something sterile. I sat on the couch, my hands still faintly shaking, not from rage, but from realization. I wasn't angry at the joke. I was angry because it wasn't a joke. I make over $200,000 a year managing risk systems for an energy firm. No flashy title, sure, but steady, respected, and incredibly secure. The kind of job that builds a life. And apparently, the kind of life Sarah resents. Later that night, the house was too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't rest, it waits. Watches. I heard the click of the bathroom cabinet, the hum of her electric toothbrush, the soft pad of Sarah's footsteps across the hardwood like they didn't belong to her anymore. I was at the kitchen island, the dishwasher humming behind me. A half-drunk glass of wine sat untouched. I'd poured it out of habit, not desire. She emerged from the hallway, wrapped in her robe, hair twisted into that bun she used to do when she was studying late back in college. Back when we still shared jokes that weren't at each other's expense. "I didn't know I married a stand-up comic," I said flatly, not looking up from the untouched glass. Her sigh hit the air like a rehearsed line. "Jake, are we still on this?" I turned. We never got off it. She rubbed her temple like she was the one being burdened. "It was a joke." "No," I said. "It was a billboard. With flashing lights. And your name on it." "God," she muttered, turning away. "You're so sensitive lately." I followed her into the living room. "I'm sensitive? You humiliate me in front of half our friends." Amanda claps back with a better punchline. "And suddenly I'm the one overreacting?" Sarah slumped onto the couch and folded her arms, eyes rolling skyward. She was flirting. "Amanda's always doing that. You're really going to sit here and act like you didn't love it?" I didn't ask to be defended. I asked for respect. That word, respect, hung in the air between us like smoke. She shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time tonight, I saw something flicker in her expression. Not guilt, not remorse, just discomfort. Like the kind you feel when a mirror finally shows you something you can't unsee. "I'm going to bed," she said sharply, rising from the couch. We both said what we needed to say. "No," I replied, staying rooted. "You said what you needed to say back at the party, in front of everyone." And now you don't get to close the book because the page makes you look bad." She didn't answer, just disappeared down the hall. I stood there for a long while after she'd gone. The house around me looked like it always had. Perfectly staged, sleek furniture, neutral tones. But it felt different now. Hollow. When I finally went to bed, she was already curled on her side, her back to me. Her breathing was steady. Practiced. I lay there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan turning above me, feeling like I was shrinking in my own life. Not because of the joke itself, but because of the way she didn't even care that it landed like a blade. I used to think we were partners. I used to believe Sarah saw me, not just what I did, but who I was. The nights she encouraged me to take the job that moved us to Denver. The mornings she packed my lunch with Post-its, "You've got this," and "Don't forget to call your mom." Now I was just convenient. Easy to ridicule. The safe, unexciting husband who kept the lights on and the mortgage paid while she played the charming hostess. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. But in the silence, something whispered louder than any argument could have. This wasn't about the joke. It was about everything underneath it. And for the first time, I wondered if I'd spent years building a life with someone who stopped valuing the very things I took pride in. The days that followed blurred into a series of slow, quiet fractures. Sarah began coming home later. Not once or twice, consistently. "Girls' night," she'd say breezily, keys jingling in one hand, perfume trailing behind her like an afterthought. Sometimes she left a plate in the sink. Sometimes her heels sat by the door in angles that suggested they'd been kicked off in a hurry. The first time, I didn't say much. The second, I asked if she was okay. By the fifth, I stopped asking. I'd come home from work, still the same cubicle job she mocked, set down my laptop bag, and noticed the silence. She used to greet me with a half hug, a "How was your day?" that felt automatic but still offered something. Now, I'd find the living room empty, TV off, couch untouched, a single wine glass drying on the counter. We started moving around the house like we were avoiding each other on purpose. She'd stay in the bedroom, scrolling through her phone. I'd retreat to the kitchen or sit outside on the back deck, staring at the string lights she insisted we install last spring. They blinked gently, like they were trying to keep up appearances for a party that had long since ended. And it wasn't just the time apart. It was the way things were left behind. Lipstick-stained mugs, a wet towel on the bathroom floor, dishes piled beside the sink instead of inside the dishwasher we bought together. She never used to do that. Sarah was meticulous. Everything had a place. Now, it felt like she was daring the house to look messy, like the order we'd built together annoyed her. The tipping point came midweek. I'd gotten home around 6. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I walked into the kitchen and found Chinese takeout containers spread across the island, half-empty boxes, one chopstick missing from a pair, soy sauce packets torn open and crusting at the edges. No note, no text, nothing. And that silence? It didn't feel accidental. Later that night, she came in just after midnight. I was half asleep on the couch, the TV flashing muted blue light across the room. She walked past me like I was furniture. "You're home," I said, voice dry. She paused, barely glanced over her shoulder. "Didn't want to wake you." "You didn't." She kept walking. I turned off the TV and just sat there in the dark, listening to the distant sound of her heels clicking down the hallway and the bathroom door closing behind her. Our home used to be a sanctuary, a space we shaped together. Early Saturday morning pancakes, shared playlists during cleaning sprees, long couch sessions binging bad TV. It had always felt like ours. But now, it was territory. Mine versus hers. Neutral corners. Civil avoidance. Even the bed felt split down an invisible line. One night, I watched her in the mirror as she got ready for bed. She was texting someone, smiling quietly at the screen. I asked, "Who's that?" She didn't even look up. "Amanda." That was all. She climbed into bed and turned away, screen lighting up her face, casting sharp shadows on the wall. I lay there, staring at the ceiling again, listening to the sound of my own breath and hers layered behind it. Two people, side by side, separate as ever. That's when I started noticing things. Her phone was always face down. Notifications came at odd hours. Laughter came from behind closed doors, then stopped when I got near. And something in me shifted. Not jealousy. Not even anger. Clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. Something was changing, and I was the only one trying to hold it still. Friday night. The sky hung low over Denver, thick with clouds and that buzzing electricity that makes the air feel heavier than usual. I stood in our hallway, staring at the front door, holding the deadbolt between my fingers. The clock on the wall read 10:56 p.m. Sarah still wasn't home. Her text had stopped around 8, some vague message about one more drink and don't wait up. But tonight, I decided I would. Only I wasn't waiting in the usual way. Not curled up on the couch hoping she'd walk in and smile at me like she used to. No, I was waiting with a different kind of energy coiled tight inside my chest. At 11 o'clock sharp, I locked the door. Deadbolt. Chain. Then I turned off the lights and walked into the kitchen, flicked on the under cabinet glow, and poured myself a glass of water. The house was quiet. So quiet I could hear the ice shifting in the freezer. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her. I let it vibrate once, twice, before answering. "Hey," I said, calm as a whisper. "Jacob? Why is the door locked?" Her voice was breathless, a little panicked, like she hadn't expected to find herself shut out of her own home. "It's 11:08, I said, glancing at the microwave clock. "You said you'd be home by 10. Don't be ridiculous. I didn't think you'd actually lock me out." "Then I guess you don't know me as well as you thought." There was silence on the line. Then, "I'm standing out here in heels, Jacob. Let me in." "You'll figure something out," I said, and took a sip of water. "Or better yet, why don't you text Amanda? She seems to be on speed dial lately." Her voice shifted. No longer panicked, angry. "You're being childish." "No," I replied. "I'm being done." I hung up. The house felt different in that moment, like it belonged to me again, if only for the night. I turned on the record player in the corner, something mellow, just enough to cut the stillness. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. She called again. I let it go to voicemail. Eventually, the knocking stopped. I don't know where she went. And honestly, for the first time in a long while, I didn't care. Instead, I stood in the middle of our kitchen, barefoot on the tile, and breathed in a silence that didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. I knew I wasn't fixing our marriage with one locked door, but I wasn't trying to. What I wanted, what I needed, was to feel like I had a line she couldn't cross. Because when someone chips away at you slowly, day after day, it's hard to notice the damage until the whole foundation's cracked. And that night, I decided to stop being a foundation for someone who kept building elsewhere. I went to bed alone, slept with the door open and the hallway light off. For the first time in weeks, I didn't toss and turn, didn't rehearse arguments in my head, didn't wonder who she was texting. I just slept. And when I woke up the next morning, the house was still quiet. Sarah wasn't there, but I was. Fully. And that, strangely, felt like enough. The morning after, the house still held that eerie quiet. No heels clicking across the hardwood. No bathroom fan humming. No Sarah. I brewed my coffee slowly, measuring each scoop like it mattered. The usual Saturday aroma, warmth and roasted calm, settled over the kitchen, but it didn't reach me the way it used to. The door stayed locked. By 10 a.m., I found myself sitting in the corner booth of a quiet little cafe near South Pearl Street, my regular spot, one Sarah never liked. Too bland, she used to say. No energy. That was exactly why I was there. Logan slid into the seat across from me. College buddy, software guy, divorced 3 years back. We'd stayed close, not because of proximity, but because he never told me what I wanted to hear. Just the truth. He didn't even bother with hello. Just looked at me, then at the coffee cup in my hands, then back at me. "She's still at Amanda's?" I nodded. "Presumably. She didn't come back last night." He took a long sip of his own drink. "So, you ready to stop pretending?" I raised an eyebrow. "Pretending what?" Logan leaned forward, both forearms resting on the table. "That this is fixable. That she'll come around. That it's about one stupid joke at a barbecue." "Jacob, man, you're losing respect for yourself." That hit harder than I expected. I looked out the window, watching a jogger pass with her dog, leash tight, both of them perfectly in sync. That kind of balance felt like a foreign language to me now. "I don't want drama," I said after a long pause. "I want peace. That's all I've ever wanted." "Then stop standing in a burning house with a hose that doesn't work," he said simply. "You don't need to scream. You don't need to flip tables. You just need to walk out the front door." I stared down at my coffee. The warmth had faded. "She's changed," I said quietly. "And I didn't see it coming." "No," Logan said. "You did. You just didn't want to believe it." He wasn't wrong. There'd been signs, long before the barbecue. Sarah's restlessness, her need for attention, the way she started rolling her eyes at the very traits she used to praise. At first, I thought it was stress, then boredom, then maybe even depression. But now, I realized I'd been searching for excuses while she'd been drawing exit routes. I sat back, exhaling. I think I'm done. Logan nodded slowly, not in celebration, but in quiet understanding. So what now? I'm going to do this right, I said. No anger. No revenge. I'm not throwing clothes on the lawn or shouting in the driveway. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? Might be cathartic. I smirked. I want a clean divorce. Half of everything. No drama. Just dignity. Logan leaned back, his expression softening. That sounds like you. I looked out the window again. The clouds were beginning to break, light spilling onto the sidewalk in patches. I just need someone who knows how to make that happen, I said. I know someone, he said, reaching for his phone. Clarissa Keller. Smart, calm, no nonsense. She helped me with mine. She'll keep it fair, but she doesn't miss a trick. I nodded. Good. Logan hesitated, then added. She'll also ask why you're so calm. Why now? Be ready for that. I've had enough chaos, I said. I want the rest of my life to feel like this coffee shop, quiet, uncomplicated. He smiled. You might actually pull that off. We sat there for a while longer, talking about nothing important. Baseball, traffic, an upcoming tech conference I didn't even care about. But I appreciated the normalcy. When we stood to leave, Logan clapped a hand on my shoulder. Just remember, he said, you're not choosing failure. You're choosing freedom. There's a difference. I watched him walk off, his stride easy, purposeful. And as I stepped out into the Denver sunlight, I realized something strange. I wasn't scared anymore. The hard part wasn't leaving Sarah. It was finally accepting that she'd already left me, long before last night. Her office smelled faintly of eucalyptus and coffee. Minimalist, like a hotel lobby meant to calm the nerves without asking too many questions. Clarissa Keller sat across from me, legs crossed, pen poised, notepad open. She didn't smile much, but there was something steady in her presence, a stillness that made it easier to breathe. I'd never sat across from a divorce attorney before. She glanced at the form I'd filled out. 7 years of marriage, no kids, 1 property in joint name. No prenup? I nodded. We bought the house 2 years in. Everything's shared. She wanted it that way. Clarissa tapped the end of her pen against her chin. And you want? A clean break, I said. 50-50. No games. No vengeance. That surprised her. Just a flicker, but I caught it. No one ever walks in here wanting just that, she said softly. Usually, they want blood. Or absolution. You sure you're not hiding a hammer behind your back? I'm not, I said. I want to move forward. Not burn the house down. Clarissa leaned back slightly, considering me. Let me guess. You spent the last few months trying to fix something you didn't break. Until one day, you realized your silence wasn't saving it. It was enabling it. I blinked. She wasn't wrong. She checked out, I admitted. I just finally stopped holding the door open. Clarissa began jotting notes. All right, here's how this works. We start by filing the petition. Keep language neutral. Colorado's a no-fault state. Irreconcilable differences will suffice. We split assets by agreement or, if needed, mediation. No court. If she's cooperative, no court. If she's bitter, maybe one hearing. But from what I'm hearing, she's not heartbroken. Just inconvenienced. That stung more than I expected. I folded my hands on the table. We haven't told anyone yet. Clarissa looked up. Do you want to? I hesitated. Eventually. But not now. I want the papers ready first. Quiet. Controlled. She nodded. I'll get the ball rolling today. We'll serve her within the week. There it was. A beginning of an end. Strangely, it didn't feel like failure. It felt like opening a window after sitting too long in a sealed room. Before I left, she handed me a slim folder. In here, what to expect. Financials, communication boundaries, transition tips. Call me if anything escalates. But Jacob, I looked up. Be ready for her to shift gears once she knows you're serious. Some people fight hardest when they realize the war's already over. I thanked her and stepped outside. The sun was sharp, bouncing off the office windows like it was trying to startle me awake. For a long moment, I just stood there, folder in hand, watching cars pass like I was trying to remember how to participate in the world again. It was strange, How something as small as a signature could signal the collapse of years. But maybe that's all a marriage really was in the end. Choices on paper, dressed up in emotion. As I walked back to my car, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel broken. I felt still, like something had finally stopped spinning. The TV was on, low volume humming from the living room, but I wasn't watching it. I'd gotten home early, earlier than usual, and for once I didn't call out when I entered. That's when I heard her voice, muffled, but close. Sarah was in the bedroom, door mostly closed. I wasn't trying to listen, but when someone uses your name like it's a piece on a chessboard, instinct takes over. I'm telling you, he's completely checked out. I come home late, leave my stuff everywhere, and he just says nothing. A pause. Then, sharper. No, Gina, I don't feel bad. You don't know what it's like living with someone who thinks being quiet is the same as being strong. Her sister. I stepped back, staying out of the hallway's line of sight. He's not going to file, Sarah said, laughing lightly. Jacob's too proud. Or maybe too passive. Either way, it's fine. I'll give him a few more weeks, maybe another push. He'll do it eventually. Another pause. I just needed to look mutual. That's the trick. If he files first, I don't look like the one who gave up. I stood frozen. The door wasn't even shut all the way. She hadn't bothered to hide the conversation. That alone told me everything about how little she feared being caught, or how certain she was that I wouldn't do anything about it. Anyway, she added, he still thinks this is just a rough patch. Poor guy. The phone call ended shortly after that. She walked out a few minutes later, eyes flicking to the couch, surprised to see me sitting there. I didn't move. Neither did she. You're home early, she said, tone neutral. I gave a nod, not offering more. She didn't ask anything else, just walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and pretended nothing had happened. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring, stared at it like it was a challenge. Then picked up. Jacob? It's Gina. Sarah's sister. I hadn't spoken to Gina in months. Her voice sounded tight, uncertain. I know this is strange, she continued, but can we talk? Just the two of us. There was a pause. I think you deserve to hear something. In person. I swallowed hard. All right. When? Tomorrow, she said. Someplace quiet. Gilmore's Diner sat on a quiet corner, the kind of place where time seemed to slow down. I'd driven past it 100 times, never thinking twice. Now, it felt like neutral ground, somewhere far enough from the life I'd built that the truth could breathe. Gina was already there. She looked different than I remembered. No makeup, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, eyes that hadn't slept much. She offered a faint smile when I walked in, but there was no warmth behind it. Just gravity. Thanks for coming, she said as I slid into the booth. I nodded. You said you had something to tell me. She looked around, almost nervously, then leaned in. I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't heard what I heard the other day. You mean Sarah's phone call? I said, watching her reaction. She blinked. So you know? I caught part of it. I figured there was more. Gina nodded slowly, almost relieved. Then her voice dropped. Jacob, Sarah's not confused. She's not lost. She's planning this. She wants out, but she doesn't want to look like the villain. She said something like that. About needing me to file first. Gina grimaced. It's worse than that. She's been telling people she's emotionally abandoned, that you're cold, distant, inattentive. It's her way of setting the stage. I clenched my jaw. And yet she's the one staying out until midnight. She's trying to provoke you, Gina said, her voice steady now. If you explode, she gets her narrative. If you walk away, she wins sympathy. But if you stay quiet, she keeps control. I leaned back against the booth, the words hitting harder than I'd expected. Why are you telling me this? Gina looked down, tracing the rim of her coffee cup with one finger. Because I've seen her do this before. Not exactly like this, but close enough. She likes being admired. She needs it. And when things get too ordinary, she rewrites the script. To make herself the main character, I said bitterly. She told me about a guy, Gina added, hesitating. Some investment guy she met at an event. I don't know if it's serious, but she talks like she's got her next move lined up. A bitter laugh escaped me. Of course she does. I'm not saying this to hurt you, Gina continued. I couldn't sit back and watch her play the victim while you get blindsided. You're a good man, Jacob. Too good to be used like this. I stared out the window. Rain had started tapping against the glass, soft, steady, like a clock counting down. she ever mention what she wanted from all this? I asked quietly. Gina hesitated. She wants the house. Half your retirement. Maybe more, if she can paint you as the one who gave up. And if I don't give her that narrative? She'll improvise, Gina said. But she won't expect you to fight back. She's counting on you to be the calm, quiet one. I nodded, absorbing the full weight of what I'd heard. For months, I'd been playing defense. Waiting. Hoping Sarah would wake up and remember the life we built. But it had never been about reconciliation. It had been about strategy. You've done more than enough, I said to Gina. Thank you. She gave a small nod, then pushed a napkin toward me. On it, she'd scribbled a name. A friend of mine. Works in private investigation. If you ever need proof. I stared at the napkin, then folded it and slipped it into my jacket pocket. As I stood to leave, Gina reached out and touched my arm gently. Whatever you do next, make sure it's on your terms. Outside, the rain had picked up. I walked to my car slowly. The city sounds muted under the drizzle. In that quiet, something inside me settled. Not peace. Not yet. But certainty. She wanted a performance. Instead, she was going to get the truth. And this time, I'd be the one writing the script. Clarissa barely looked up when I walked in. She was typing, glasses low on her nose, half a sandwich pushed aside on a napkin. I stood in front of her desk for a moment longer than necessary until she noticed the shift in my energy. When she did, she sat back slowly and gave me a long, assessing look. Something's changed, she said. I nodded. I want everything. She didn't blink. Didn't ask why. Just folded her hands and waited for me to explain. She's been playing me, I said, voice low but steady. Trying to provoke a divorce so she can claim assets, the house, sympathy. She's setting up a narrative where I look like the one who quit. Clarissa tilted her head, then reached for her legal pad. Tell me everything you know. I laid it out, step by step. What I overheard. Gina's confession. The calculated late nights. The silence. The manipulation dressed as detachment. She wants to land on her feet, I said. But I'm not going to let her burn the house down and call it a rescue. Clarissa was already scribbling notes. Good. Then we adjust. Mutual dissolution is off the table. From this point on, we prepare for resistance. I don't want a circus, I said. But I'm done being silent. Clarissa nodded. Then we go tactical. You start documenting everything. When she leaves, what time she comes home, anything she says that contradicts her claims. If you have access to shared bank accounts, screenshot unusual spending. Don't confront her. Don't warn her. Just collect. She slid a slim folder across the desk. Here's what qualifies as admissible evidence. Start tonight. I took the folder, the weight of it heavier than the pages inside. There's something else, I added, pulling the napkin from my jacket pocket. I placed it on her desk, Gina's referral. Clarissa scanned it, then gave a satisfied nod. Private investigator? She said I'd need proof. You will, she confirmed. And not just for court. For clarity. Sometimes seeing the full truth is the only way to stop wondering if you were imagining it. I sat back in the chair and exhaled. For so long, I'd been trying to keep things civil. Polished. Like a quiet ending would hurt less. But Sarah hadn't wanted quiet. She wanted cover. I wasn't giving her that anymore. Clarissa's voice softened. You understand this could get ugly. I nodded. So be it. I won't raise my voice. I won't humiliate her. But I won't let her rewrite the story while I'm still in it. She smiled faintly. That's the right kind of ruthless. I left the office with more than a plan. I left with direction. At home, I started small. A note in my phone with timestamps. Photos of the mess she left behind. Wine glasses, receipts, the same pattern repeated. Each piece wasn't much on its own. But together, they told the story she hoped I'd be too tired to record. That night, Sarah came home at 12:13 a.m. Her heels echoed louder than usual. She smelled like mint and perfume that wasn't hers. She paused when she saw me at the dining table, laptop open, folder beside me. You're up late, she said cautiously. I didn't look up. Yeah. She hovered a second longer, waiting for a reaction that never came, then turned and walked down the hall. And as the door clicked shut behind her, I typed the entry. 12:13 a.m. Returned home. No explanation. Minimal interaction. Noted unease when seeing files. I didn't feel angry. I felt ready. Because she'd wanted me passive. Predictable. Silent. But I wasn't silent anymore. And I had no intention of letting her win by default. It happened on a Friday, the kind of night when the city hums with people looking for escape. Sarah had left at 7 p.m., dressed sharper than usual. Not a word about where, just a breezy, "Don't wait up." I didn't. Instead, I waited until 11:52 p.m., then picked up my phone and called her. She answered on the third ring, the bass of some distant club thumping in the background. "Hello," she shouted over the noise, laughter curling at the edge of her voice. "It's me," I said calmly. A pause. Then, slurred amusement. "Wow, didn't expect the bedtime call. What's up, Daddy Daycare?" I ignored it. "You out with Amanda again?" She laughed. "Sure, let's call it that. You don't like it, Jacob. There's a simple fix. Get a divorce." I smiled. She couldn't see it, but it was the first real smile I'd worn in weeks. "I already did," I said. Silence. I could hear the music behind her, but she didn't say anything. "Papers were filed yesterday. You'll be served on Monday," I added, voice level. "Oh, and just so we're clear, no, you don't get the house." The music didn't stop, but everything else did. "You're joking," she said finally. "I'm not." A beat passed. Then she hung up. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. At 12:16 a.m., the front door burst open. Her heels hit the floor in sharp staccato. Purse slammed against the counter. I didn't look up from the couch. "You filed for divorce?" she spat. I looked at her. "Why? Because I went out with friends?" "Because I gave you chances," I said, rising slowly. "And you used every one to prove you were already gone." "I was trying to get your attention." I laughed once dry. "No, you were trying to get leverage." She froze, eyes narrowing. "You think I don't know? The calls, the setups." Gina came to me. Now she really froze. "You talked to Gina?" "She told me the plan. Push me. Provoke me. Let me give up so you can walk away clean." Sarah stepped back like the words hit her in the chest. "It wasn't like that," she whispered. "Don't lie. Not now." I walked to the dining table, pulled the folder from beneath a stack of receipts. "Set it down." "Evidence," I said. "Every night you came home late. Every contradiction. You were writing your exit." I just decided to stop holding the door. Tears welled in her eyes, but I'd seen this act before. Too many times. I wasn't cold. I just wasn't fooled. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, softer now. "I was just lost." "No," I replied. "You were calculated. And now, you're cornered." She took a shaky step forward. "Can we talk? I mean, really talk?" I tilted my head. "I tried to talk. You laughed. You mocked me in front of friends. You disappeared for nights. You gave up before I ever did." Her voice cracked. "I didn't think you'd actually leave. You didn't think I'd finally see you," I said. And I had. Not the version of Sarah I married, but the one who stood here now, unsure of how her plan slipped through her fingers. I walked past her calm. No yelling. No parting shot. Just a sentence she never expected to hear. "I'll be staying at Logan's until this is finalized." "Jacob, wait." I opened the door. "Don't worry. You'll have plenty of time to explain this version of the story to whoever's left to believe it." Then I left. And for the first time in months, the night didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. 3 months later, the ocean wakes me before the sun does. I live in a small beach house now, tucked just outside Lincoln City, Oregon. It's not grand. Just white siding, wind-tossed grass, and windows that open to the sound of waves instead of traffic. Most mornings, I make coffee barefoot, the floor cold under my feet, and let the breeze in while I work remotely. I kept my job, the one Sarah mocked. Turns out, the safe little cubicle job came with flexible hours and a boss who actually cared about my well-being. Funny how much brighter life feels when no one's draining the air out of your lungs. I've made new friends here. Neighbors who wave without pretending. I host dinner every few weeks. Grilled salmon, mismatched plates, laughter that reaches all the way outside. And I've rediscovered something I thought I'd lost for good. Stillness. Not loneliness. Stillness. There's a difference. One evening, as I was walking back from the farmer's market, my phone buzzed. Logan had sent me a screenshot from a social post. Sarah. She was tagged at some party, looking tired. Someone in the comments mentioned she was couch surfing after a situation with her boyfriend went south. No house. No Porsche. No second chapter. Just scattered pieces of the story she tried to rewrite. I stared at the screen for a moment. Not angry. Not smug. Just quiet. Poetic justice doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it shows up in the life you build once no one's watching. Sometimes it looks like peace. And as the tide rolled in behind me, I realized she never broke me. She freed me. That was the end of my story. I still think about Gina. How she could have stayed silent, let her sister's plan unfold. But instead, she chose to warn me. She risked family to tell the truth. Would you have done the same in her place? Let me know in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more.